grandparents. We're continuing on talking about the garden and the lessons we can learn in the garden. As it's spring and we want to enjoy that time that we're spending with grands, if you're a gardener, I hope you will add some comments to this because you'll have some insights that maybe we missed. But let's think about the family values that can be taught in the garden. Now, you may think that's a little bit odd to connect those two dots, but wait until we get through the notes I have here and see what you think afterwards. So, here's a value, and you know we're big on values. We want to teach our grands the values that have been important in our lives, and we want them to carry on as they grow and become parents and grandparents. We want those family values to continue to get passed down. So, here's a value, a couple of them actually, that you can teach in the garden. The value of patience and perseverance. Gardens don't grow overnight. They take time and nurturing, and you don't see the product, the harvest, for months. And so for a child, time, especially the younger the child is, time is not a concept they grasp very easily. They may understand minutes and days and hours and all those terms, but as far as function, sometimes they really struggle to, connect the dots and realize, how long it takes for something to pass, and that a week and a month and a summer, are significant periods of time. So, patience and perseverance. Patience is important, to wait for things to come. We live in an era of immediate gratification, and so a garden is certainly not that. So it's a good lesson in patience. But then the perseverance, to keep working it, to even before you see the fruits of your labors, to work and do the things that you need to do to have the outcome that you desire. How about the value of being self-reliant, of providing for the needs for your family? As they grow, they may not be providing the food needs via garden, but they'll learn some lessons about that by virtue of having been a part of raising a garden. Just the understanding that, if you want food, there's work that must go into it, whether it's your own or the work of a farmer or the work of a trucker moving that food across the country. All of those things are connected. And so teach them to be as self-reliant as you can, and one part of that might be gardening for them and providing for the food needs, or at least part of the food needs for their family. The value of nurturing. Nurturing is so important in our human relationships, and as parents and grandparents, we want to nurture the young children, help them to grow and become the best that they can be. Well, teaching a child about that, it may come with pets. You help them learn how to take care of their pets. It can also be done in the garden, where they learn to take care of small plants that are tender and need to be cared for in order to grow to maturity and produce their fruit or their vegetable. So nurturing is another family value that can be taught in the garden. And what about the value of safeguarding, of protecting? We in our families, of course, always try to safeguard and protect those that we love. We lock our doors at night. We teach our children lessons about how to be safe when they're in public. And in the garden, we can teach about some of the more innermost safeguards. And why would I say that? Well, think about a garden. You are going to safeguard those plants from disease, from insects, from pests, and you may do a variety of things to do that. And while you're doing so, you can talk to grandchildren about the importance of safeguarding our hearts, of keeping our hearts from being corrupted and disease-ridden, and from letting bitterness come in. And they'll see firsthand if For example, if a pest gets into the garden and starts eating the leaves of a plant, they will see a physical object lesson about what happens when things invade our lives. And you can teach them that if you let certain things into your heart, anger and bitterness, for example, it eats away just like those pests eat away at the leaves of the plant. So be creative. Look for the lessons that you can teach your grands while you're gardening and spending time with them. And then the rewards of the harvest. I think one of the important things we teach our children is that if we put forth effort, there are rewards to be had, whether they're monetary, whether they're educational, whether they're spiritual, whether they're relational. Everything that is of value in our life takes effort. And that is, in essence, a harvest. So here you have, yet again, another object lesson with physical plants that if you take care of them, if you nurture them through the summer, if you work with them and you weed the garden, there's a harvest to come. There's a reward, and that reward has value. So here are some activities, suggestions. Of course, plant some seeds. Let them see seedlings. Show them the little tiny seed that turns into a plant. That's a great experience for a young child. We have one grandson who is so fascinated with little plants, and he's a nurturer by nature, just like his daddy. So plant some seeds. If you have room, do a full garden. Plan it with your grands, and then give them some responsibilities, especially if they're nearby and they're with you over the course of a growing season. Maybe make them responsible for weeding either the whole garden or a section of it. Make them responsible for moving the hose around to water appropriately, or tying up the beanstalks to a trellis so they grow properly. Things like that. Give them some job and help them participate in the process. So look for those ways that you can teach family values in your garden with your grandchildren. Be grand.